They follow in the footsteps of sky dancers who competed in the first World Championship in 1960. Every 2 years since then, the true elite of pilots have tested their skills this way.
Just like at home, right? Just like it. Just like at home.
Most pilots fly from point A to point B. Everybody every day flies from city to city in airplanes. But aerobatics is something special in the respect that it is the mastery of an aircraft in truly 3 dimensions. And the figures that are flown up and down, sideways, it's a wonderful sport because pilots are able to put their skills to use in the mastery of the aircraft in all of its regimes, from the fastest to the slowest, to straight up to straight down. And in that respect, it's the most demanding, I think, of all the skills that a pilot learns. And therefore, for that reason, the pilots that score well and that will win at this championships are really among the best pilots in the world.
The U.S. team is made up of 5 men and 3 women pilots, along with mechanics and officials needed to keep things running smoothly. Those who have competed in the Worlds before already understand that this event is as much about stress management as it is about flying. Airline pilot Kirby Chambliss is at his second Worlds, having finished 5th in 1998. And he has a luxury that all competitors wish they had. His home backs up against a private airstrip.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I have an aerobatic box at my house now, so I can get up, and I fly 3 times a day for about 15 minutes at a time in the box, and that's all I do is, 15 minutes of aerobatics every day. And then before I go to work in the mornings, I'm an airline pilot, so I usually go on a 3-day trip. Before I go out on that trip, I'll get in a flight also, so I practice a lot.
David Martin is not a professional aviator. He works in the oil business, but can set his own schedule. He's logged nearly 250 hours in 20-minute flights getting ready for his second Worlds, and is hoping to finish in the top 10.
Oh, I've just always loved to fly ever since I was a kid. It's just the thrill of being up above the earth. And the best part about flying is really just the view from up there. I mean, the aerobatics is great fun, but, it's just like nothing else you can do.
Leading the U.S. women is Debbie Reen Harvey. She is the most experienced American pilot, having been to 8 previous World Championships. The financial commitment she's made to compete at this level is substantial. Her plane, as well as every other one in the competition, cost in excess of $200,000.
It's a very expensive sport, and for those of us who aren't supported in any way, it takes a lot of work to get where we're at and to maintain that level financially. And there aren't a whole lot of women that have that financial support or ability.
The planes are expensive because of their capabilities. The Sukhoi 31, Cap 232, and others here in France represent the best in purpose-built sport aviation planes. In their stock configuration, they're lightweight, powerful, and incredibly maneuverable. Still, world-class aerobatic competitors always find ways to stretch the performance envelope.
This engine normally puts out 260 horses, and this one puts out about 325 horsepower. Now, the propeller is a carbon. It's a carbon and Kevlar with a foam core and a nickel leading edge. It's a real high-tech propeller. With the gyroscopic loads we put on these, not only in competition, but when we fly like 4-minute freestyles where we're doing the tumbles, tumbling them end over end, gyroscopic loads we put on the crankshaft. If we didn't run propellers like this, these high-tech propellers, we'd break the crankshaft right off just from the loads that you put on it.
Because of these planes' remarkable ability to respond instantly to any pilot input, the physical demands on a world-class aerobatic pilot are unlike any other in aviation.
Aerobatics requires a pilot to be able to sustain and withstand G-forces anywhere from plus 10 to minus 6 Gs. This means that your body weighs 10 times what it does in normal gravity. Now keep in mind that the pilot is sustaining those G-forces, is withstanding the push downward on his body as the figures and the maneuvers are accomplished. But then he or she must look outside the airplane and inside and plan the flight and execute the figures while undergoing this terrific physical strain.
Even a short layoff for a top-flight aerobatic pilot requires some reconditioning.
Welcome to the Club of Zeros.
No.
Yeah.
The Americans are facing an uphill challenge to win either an individual or team gold medal. Only Reen Harvey has been to more than 3 previous world championships. Just as in figure skating, it takes judges a while to get familiar with the pilot's flying, making it more difficult to break into the top echelon the first few times out. Nonetheless, the Americans will be trying to win their first men's and women's team gold since 1988. America's chief rivals will be the Russians and the host French, who look particularly strong. Every other competitor knows it too.
Most of the rest of us are amateur pilots trying our best to compete, and when we beat one of the French or the Russian pilots, we feel very good about it. But they are the main nations, hence they have such fantastic aircraft that they can allow us to buy.
Competition aerobatics is more than just flying a series of maneuvers well. They must be performed in what's called an aerobatic box, which is a large cube of air that begins 300 feet off the ground. All maneuvers must be flown in that box, which measures 1 square kilometer. The competition has a whole series of what are called SEVA rules, which are designed to ensure the safety of all competitors.
So it's a very small area, but yet the airspeeds that these aircraft are flying can exceed 200 or 250 knots. So they're flying very high speed in a very small area. And those who do not stay in the area do not win the competition.
Though there are far more men than women in world-class aerobatics, the sport is gender neutral. Americans Reen Harvey, Marta Meyer, and Janet Fitzke all compete straight up against the men for the overall individual medals. However, the women will also be competing against each other for their own medals. One of the very best, Russian Elena Klimowicz, is a professional aerobatic instructor and is expected to do well against pilots of either gender.
It becomes your life, really, this aerobatic. And it's a good fun, it's a good challenge, it's a good hobby, and it really becomes your life. But some of my friends tell that in the time when I don't fly for a long time, it's impossible to deal with me.
Women can fly these aircraft out here with equal skill, whether they weigh 110 pounds or whether, you have men that weigh 200 pounds, women that weigh 100 pounds. But it makes no difference in the cockpit of the airplane. And we've proven time and time again that the women are as capable and as skilled and as proficient as the men. And we now have a proposal to end the differences, to end the separation of the men and the women in the championships, and I hope that that will come to pass very soon.
And indeed, after the first program, another Russian, Svetlana Kapanina, leads the competition.
Я, конечно, рада очень.
She's very glad, very delighted by it.
Хотелось бы надеяться, что это не случайно.
And she would like to think that it's not just by chance.
But the free program was only the first of 3 rounds, or as they're called in aerobatics, programs. To stay first, Kapanina will have to perform well in the second and third programs, which are called the unknowns. This is where the pressure intensifies.
That'll be all right. Yeah, it's important, otherwise we put women off from flying.
The morning of the first unknown, pilots begin the ritual of preparing to fly. It is called unknown because until the day before, no pilot knows what figures will be in that program. The exact figures to be flown come from a list submitted by participating nations, which are then selected by the competition jury. There can be no duplicate figures. In this unknown, there are 13 figures, and they must be flown in a specific order called a sequence. It is this portion of the World Championship that causes sweaty palms, dry mouths, and sleepless nights. The Americans proposed figure number 8 in the sequence, a snap roll, and an 8-point roll performed while on an outside P-loop, a 2 of 2, 1 and a full roll the opposite way on the exit. As with number 8, each figure has multiple elements within it. Because the aerobatic catalog has hundreds of figures, and those figures can be flown several ways, it is impossible for any pilot to have flown the sequence the FAI has handed him. What makes the unknown so stressful is that no pilot is allowed to pre-fly it. Hence, the airfield at Muret becomes a bizarre sight, with pilots seeming to perform the ancient art of Tai Chi. It's called ground dancing and was created by 1960 world champion Ladislav Besic. And it's been a part of world aerobatic competitions ever since.
Some people.
I'm worrying about the box. Don't worry about the box. No, you have to start this early. This very early. When you come down, come around, do this. Yes.
Number 8 is a difficult figure, but none of them are supposed to be easy at this level of flying, as England's Nick On performs it. The 8-point roll on the zenith of the loop does have its intricacies. Precision is paramount if the roll is to be flown in exact 45-degree increments. As Hungary's Peter Bessenye flies figure number 8, he too finds it excessively challenging because of a low entry speed. Each of the 13 figures is scored separately. 10 points is the maximum score for each figure. But if a pilot leaves out an element within the figure or flies it in the wrong direction, he will receive a 0. American Marta Meyer comes into the first unknown in 39th. She needs to pick up 2 positions to be assured of flying the next round. Every figure counts toward the total score. No mistakes are tossed out. The plane appears to break away from her on some of these rolls. Meyer fails to score high enough to advance to the next round of competition. Reen Harvey has a different concern. Partway into her sequence, she suddenly quits flying the figures. Something is wrong. Whatever her problem, Reen Harvey is able to safely land her plane.
The altimeter was bouncing around, so I didn't know accurate altitudes and I didn't know accurate airspeeds, and so I decided to quit.
Following repairs, she will be allowed to refly the unknown with a scoring picking up where she had her troubles. American David Martin has mentally rehearsed the unknown sequence more than 50 times since he first saw it. He's been off by himself, walking it through until it's time to climb into his plane. Now, he doesn't mind the company. Like the 24 pilots who have gone before him, Martin is about to engage in the most intense flying outside of combat. Part of the sequence is half of a snap roll on the way up. With an 8-point roll while flying the outside loop, each 45-degree increment must be precise and evenly spaced throughout the arc. Between the adrenaline, heat, and high G loads, Martin's body is working in overdrive. It's easy to get dehydrated and not at all unusual to lose 5 pounds in the brief time a pilot is airborne. Martin scores 12th best for the sequence.
Sometimes you feel like you're kind of with the airplane, and sometimes you feel like you're not. And that one, I was feeling pretty comfortable, like I'm one with the airplane, you know, feeling part of the airplane, which is, that's the way it should be, but it's not always that way. Nerves can play a big part in that.
With so much to remember in such a short program, it's all but impossible to truly know how well one is flown. That's certainly true of American Robert Armstrong, who's been through the tension of 3 past world championships.
I've been nervous about it since yesterday morning. So even though we do carry a sequence card in the airplane, it's all coming just from memory and visualization of what's supposed to be down on the ground under me when I do this, turn around, yes, we're doing good, keep going. I land, I'm fairly certain I've done all the figures, but since I am going from memory, I absolutely have no recollection of doing everything. That's why the first thing I asked was, did I do everything? And everybody's smiling. That's a good sign. It's when everybody's looking sort of sad, you know, uh-oh, I messed up.
There are large white markers on the ground indicating the boundaries of the box. To stay in the vertical box, pilots will occasionally refer to their altimeter. But these pilots are so experienced that they usually know by sight alone what their altitude is. Scores which are posted within minutes of a performance are unofficial. Any country can protest a pilot's score if it feels the judges missed a mistake or misinterpreted the rules. Inevitably, at the World Championship, there are protests. And it is usually the next morning before the jury announces if a protest was upheld or tossed out. Not only are pilots like America's Chris Panzel getting scored by the judges, they're also getting critiqued by team members, some of whom have sequence cards. The pilots won't refer to the cards when another is flying because they have already flown it for real or have mentally rehearsed it for their turn in the box.
And he did it that way in his practice. And I'm like, no, remember, and rolling back.
This one he was over on that half outside. Yeah.
The rest of it was great.
For some reason on the ground I just couldn't
Get that in your
I
head.
told you to stop over there. Remember when you were rolling that way? I'm going, what are you doing? You were walking through it. And you did
You're
it just
right.
like you did. That's what I said.
Panzel has flown one figure exactly as he had ground danced it, where he danced it wrong. Each of the three programs is flown in reverse order with the top points pilot flying last. The top scores from the free program are next in the box. France's Eddie Dussault begins his sequence in 4th place. Dussault doesn't know his score, but he says it's what the judges think that matters. Yet I'm satisfied with how I flew. By quite a margin, the judges think his unknown program is the best of anyone so far. The judges score Dussault as having flown 80% of a perfect program. Coming from the toughest critics in the world, that is an excellent effort. The question is, how will first-round leader Svetlana Kapanina respond? Can she score high enough to keep the lead? It is a question that won't be answered this day because it's near the end of safe flying conditions. She, along with several other pilots, will wait until tomorrow to perform their unknown. And all pilots agree that it's the waiting that frays already jumpy nerves. Almost immediately the next day, an occurrence not uncommon in world aerobatics takes place with 3rd place Eric Vazet in the box. A 30-year-old airline pilot, Vazet has logged 600 hours of aerobatics time and is a gold medal winner in the 1998 Team World Aerobatic Championship. But he fails to do the 3/4 4-point and then aborts the flight. Something has to be wrong as he heads back to the tarmac. American Kirby Chambliss is next. He's sitting 2nd in the points, but it has been 3 days since he last flew. As Chambliss enters the box, he waggles his wings, signaling the start of his sequence. But before he begins performing the first figure, he decides he's not at his preferred altitude and promptly exits the box. In U.S. competition, this is permitted, and it is assumed that the FAI's SEVA rules, which govern the competition, also permit it. Chambliss goes around and begins again. As other top pilots do, he tries to hide any mistakes he makes from the judges. In addition to concentrating on how the figures have to be flown, Chambliss is also trying to remember where the judges are sitting in relation to his position in the box. He's making all these calculations in a split second. The final roll on exit from figure 13 brings Chambliss's first unknown to a close. The mistakes he's made seem small enough to keep him high in the medal standings.
Good looking flight though, Bob. Thanks.
I thought it was a better flight than what the judges thought, so it's just kind of on how they see it, and we'll see. You know, we got one more flight. Unfortunately, it didn't work out quite what I thought it was. So I had a couple of outs, and that probably hurt me a little bit, but we just have to see what happens. I don't know. I'm about 120 points out of first and about 20 points. So it's still, this next flight, you know, if I fly really well and get some good scores, then maybe I'll get back in the run in there. So, yeah, a little disappointed, but oh well.
So good luck.
Well, the sun will come up tomorrow anyway, I know.
Meanwhile, members of the jury interrogate Vissé while the technical committee inspects the Frenchman's plane. If there is a mechanical problem, his crew will be allowed to repair it, and Vissé will be permitted to begin again. While this is happening, Kapanina begins her 4-minute sequence in her Sukhoi. The plane shows up well in the sky, and it's Kapanina's job to put that to good advantage. The former world-class gymnast is one of the few women in recent world championships to have won an overall medal, a bronze in 1998. She is also a past women's world champion. Unlike figure skating or gymnastics, where perfect scores are occasionally awarded, no one ever flies perfectly. There are too many elements, too many variables to fly everything just right. It's more a matter of how big the mistakes are. Heading into the next to last figure, she starts her roll in the wrong direction. She catches herself and rolls the right way, but it is a huge mistake that could earn her a 0 on that figure. Her fate and hopes of becoming the first woman to win the overall championship lie in the hands of the judges. Meanwhile, the technical committee agrees that Vissé's mechanical trouble was serious enough to warrant stopping his program. He will be allowed to fix it and start again. But there is a time limit. If repairs cannot be made, Vissé will score 0 on the entire sequence, dropping him from further competition. As Kapanina ends her unknown with a wing waggle and exits the box, she knows it has not been her best effort. Figure 12 proves to be Kapanina's undoing. She does get zeroed for her mistake at the beginning of it. Her unknown program score is only 14th best. Though she drops to 6th in the overall standings, there is still one flight to go, and she could earn a podium position yet. At the moment, that thought is of little consolation for flying well below her ability. Repaired with time to spare, Vissé takes off, but can he overcome the emotional letdown of his mechanical problem and stay in gold medal contention? It is evident early in his unknown that Vissé has put the recent pass behind him. This figure is a hammerhead to a 3/4 roll on the way down. His flying style suits the Cap 232's lack of raw horsepower. There appear to be no glaring mistakes in this or any other part of his sequence.
After the first maneuvers, when I pull the plane from the horizontal flight to vertical, I feel some vibration in the stick, and I thought that it was my fault because maybe I pulled too much. I decided to continue the 3/4 negative flick, and in the 3/4 he have something wrong. I pulled too and feel a lot of vibration too, and decide to land. It's a small crew. Our mechanics fix it very fast. Merci. Merci Hugues.
Vassay scores 7th best, but his overall total vaults him into 2nd and shows he is mentally tough in addition to being talented. He's now behind only Dussault. Overall, the women continue to perform well. Frances Catherine Manoury flies the 2nd best unknown of any pilot. She is now 5th overall and has moved 1 position ahead of Kapanina for the women's lead. Still, Manoury knows her sequence could have been a lot better.
I got out of the box in the west, and immediately I told myself, why didn't you avoid getting out? What's been hard on me is the waiting. We've been here 10 days to fly 3 times. The rest of the time, you worry.
How much of France's success can be attributed to Patrick Paris' coaching is speculation in the other camps. But there's no denying that French pilots lead both the overall and women's standings.
We stepped here with no speed hardly at all.
The news is also good for the American men. 4 pilots are in the top 17, with Kirby Chambliss solidly in medal contention.
Not a good thing.
But the next morning, there will be stunning news. There is one more program to go, and the pressure is building. The pilots know that the final program to determine the 2000 World Aerobatic Champion is another totally different unknown sequence. Of the 60 pilots who arrived in France 2 weeks ago, only 37 have made the cut to fly the final program. American David Martin is currently 14th and is out of the medals no matter how well he flies the 2nd unknown. However, the real shock is that Chambliss is also out of contention.
Well, actually, when I left here that evening, I was in 3rd place, and I managed to move to 8th, and I didn't even fly while I was sleeping. But what happened is I went into the box. In order to signal that you're starting your flight, you dip the wings 3 times. And in the States, it's allowed to dip the wings 3 times under the IAC rules, and then if you're not in a position that you want to be in, you can just drive through. SEVA rules are just a little bit different. My interpretation and the jury's interpretations were different, and that's where the technicality lies, is that they said that I had started my program by signaling the 3 wing rocks and then driving through, and then coming back and starting again, they gave me an interruption.
It is a penalty of 150 points, costing him those 5 positions. For Eddie Dussault, the World Championship is going according to plan. The Frenchman is first heading into the final program. Thanks to a low ceiling, it looks like it will take at least 2 days to fly the final unknown. As the leader, Dussault will be last to fly.
You have pressure, a lot of pressure. When you are first after the 2 first programs, it's difficult to be quiet and don't think about the future. And so I have not make a good night. But tonight will be okay, for sure.
But the weather will have some influence on when the competition actually will end. Up to now, the conditions have been more or less cooperative in the World Aerobatic Championship. There have been some delays because of the threat of rain. Today, it's a different problem. The clouds have been playing tag with the top of the aerobatic box. Officials have weather radar on site and get updates on conditions every 15 minutes. The clouds fall below minimums, and the final stage of the championship is delayed. It only magnifies the pressure.
Well, we were told that it's because of too low cloud base, so he was right to do it. And now they will send the airplane with a jury member and organizers to measure the cloud base again. So we'll see what happens. Well, we cannot do anything else. It would be better to start flying much earlier, but let's wait.
Delays are inevitable in long aerobatic competitions, and it is often how well a pilot deals with factors out of his control that determines how he flies. Elena Klimowicz finally gets the green light in less than perfect conditions. Having flown in many aerobatic championships, she has seen nearly every conceivable weather pattern. One of the more challenging figures in the second unknown is nicknamed the Humpty Bump. Klimowicz performs it well, even though poor visibility deprives her of any good reference points. She's flown an excellent program given the conditions and could make a big move in the standings.
That's it. That's finished for me. I mean, the unknown. Let's see if we will be able to fly 4-minute freestyle, but the classical programs are finished for me.
Weather planes continually check conditions and report the boxes clear.
Clearly 900.
David aborted its course.
David Martin isn't so sure, but has little choice. Officials send him up, even though the ceiling is about the same as it was when Martin tried flying a few minutes earlier.
Even before you get to the clouds.
The ceiling is still marginal when Martin gets to the box, but he decides to proceed anyway. Martin's figure number 2 includes a 3/4 snap. A wing over, a 3/4 roll on the downward leg, and an inverted exit. Martin does well given the circumstances, but it is clearly not the way he wanted to end his second world championship.
Well, I went ahead and did it anyway. I still think the weather is marginal, but I kind of got forced into the situation, so I kind of flew in conditions worse than you really want to fly in. But, you know, it was like, do it. They had me kind of in a corner, you might say.
And conditions hardly improve for the next pilot, Spain's Ramon Alonso. If conditions were marginal for Martin, they are unacceptable to the 10th place pilot. He aborts the flight, and FAI officials agree. The remaining pilots are grounded for the rest of the day. Conditions the next morning are a total contrast to the day before. The sun is out and the winds are up. They are still within competition parameters. But it is another factor to adjust for in the pursuit of gold. Even in slack wind, it is not hard to fly beyond the boundaries of the aerobatic box, called an out, and incur a point penalty. The likelihood of that increases when the winds pick up. Alonso is the first to find out just how challenging the winds are on his final flight. He makes the best of the wind and moves up a spot to 9th in the standings. The bigger problem for Kirby Chambliss is regaining his focus. The interruption penalty in the first unknown that knocked him from the gold medal hunt has demoralized him. In his mental walkthrough of the second unknown, he has yet to fly it right. The trick to excelling in strong winds is to make it appear to the judges as if there are no winds. Mastering that feat is one of the toughest challenges in aerobatics, as Chambliss puts his 8th place plane through its paces.
Good line. 4.1, 2, 3, 4. Good cadence. Wheels up.
The second of these rolls is supposed to be in the opposite direction, but Chambliss appears to be rolling right again.
Well, that's too bad. So, yeah, maybe they didn't notice. What do you think?
Nope.
Well, we could always hope, right?
A quick wing dip and Chambliss's sequence is complete. The verdict on the ground always centers not on what was done well, but what wasn't.
That's 0. That won't make him happy.
Even Chambliss isn't sure if he misfired on the figure in question.
Look the other way. Let's see. Thought I did. Because I rolled to the left, right? Yeah.
And his worst fear is realized. He scores a 0 on the questionable snap roll. Pilots in the top 10 all have superb technical skills in the cockpit. The difference between them is how well they manage stress. Since leading the first round, Svetlana Kapanina has not handled the stress well at all and consequently has stumbled. This is her last chance to elevate her flying enough to repeat her bronze medal finish in 1998. When she needed to fly her best, she's flown her worst.
It's maybe more difficult for the top pilots with high expectations. Doesn't matter the wind, the tension was building up during all these days, and it shows.
Kapanina falls from 6th to 15th in the final results.
What was the problem?
В чем была проблема?
В голове, конечно.
Just in the head.
The pressure now shifts to Katrine Manui. Klimowicz has flown well the day before and could win the women's gold if the Frenchwoman has a bad sequence. Performing in her last international competition, the 10-time Frenchwoman's titleist is flying a solid program. There's just one last figure, a hammerhead and a 3/4 of a 4-point. A wingdip and her world championship is over.
C'est certain! Arrête de déconner!
Allez!
C'est bien, Catherine.
The applause is well earned. She's made few mistakes and hangs on to win the women's gold. It is a fitting end to her competitive career. The duel for the overall individual champion appears to be an all-French affair. Dussault has a 100-plus point lead over Vassey. But it is third-place Russian Mikhail Mamistov who flies the best sequence of the day. Figure 9 is the most difficult of all, and is flown almost flawlessly. He is forcing both Frenchmen to fly well. Vassey is next in the box. Can he make a tough figure look easy? A snap roll to a hammerhead. Nose down. A 3/4 4-point and leveling off. He's done well, but is it enough? His score is better than Mamistov. Vassey is now in first place. The last pilot to fly in the World Aerobatic Championship cannot worry about what Vassey has done. If Dussault flies well, it won't matter. Unfortunately, he does not. There are mistakes on the snap roll. A major wobble on the hammerhead. The question now is, was it good enough to hold on to first?
It's a little bit less than the other one. It was more pressure, so more difficult. But we have to see now. I was having 120 points, so we have to see. We have to wait for the score.
The weight is almost as difficult as the flying. At first, some think Dussault has won.
C'est pas sûr encore. C'est pas sûr. Non.
The final standings show it's not really close at all. Vassey earns his first individual world championship by 46 points over Mamistov. Dussault falls to third. The new world titleist is more relieved than jubilant. It's been a great world championship for France. The host nation boasts both the overall and women's champion. The French men's team also takes the gold. The French women finish second to Russia. The United States does medal, earning a bronze in both the team competitions. Individually, Chambliss is the top American in 8th. Debbie Reen Harvey is the top woman in 25th. It will be another year before the best aerobatic pilots gather for the next World Championship. But there is a good chance that at this very moment, somewhere in the skies, a pilot is in the box, hanging upside down, sharpening skills, aiming to earn the highest honor in sport aviation, the title of World's Best Pilot.